Hello, and welcome to What's Yours is Mine, a brand new podcast that I'm sure you'll love. I'm your host, Lucas, alongside with my co host, McKenna, as always. Today, we're going to be talking about why we are doing this very podcast. We're going to be talking about some podcast inspiration of ours. We will be discussing WandaVision that recently completed its first season. And at the end, we might play a game or two. So it should be a great time. McKenna, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Um, Definitely don't want the weekend to end because it went by pretty quick, but
It did.
I'm
It
doing
did.
well.
It's already Sunday night, but guess
Yeah.
that's the way it is.
Yep.
Yep. Well, seeing as it's our very first podcast together and individually, let's introduce ourselves, shall we? Why don't you start?
Yep. And McKenna. I am one part of this podcast. I am recently graduated from college, just started my first full time job, and I've been a fan of podcasts for a while, so I'm like, I should just give this a go. But yeah, so, and then there's Lucas. You can introduce yourself.
Yep, that's me. I am Lucas. I don't know. I also too like podcasts sometimes, and I also too just graduated, so
Yep.
I have nothing else to do. I'm currently unemployed, I guess you could say.
Yep. And then Lucas and I have been in a relationship for the last a little bit over 2 years, I
Hmm.
think. I'm trying to do the math today and I couldn't figure it out. So we're just going to start this podcast and hopefully we'll share our interests with each other and then share our interests with everybody else as well.
Definitely, definitely.
Yep.
Well,
So, well, on the topic of just podcasts, and strictly just why we wanted to do a podcast, we're going to lead into just some of our podcasts that we really enjoy. So for me, I've been listening to podcasts for probably over like a year and a half now. So I really wanted to start a podcast because I really like having conversations with people, and I just really like listening to podcasts in general. So I'm like, I should just give it a go and see if I enjoy doing podcasts as well. So I don't know if Lucas and I have not talked about this. We know we both listen to podcasts, but we're not sure. I'm not sure if we listen to the same type of podcasts. So I'm interested to see how we both kind of talk with each other, if that makes sense. And I don't know if you're excited about that too. But the type of podcasts I really listen to have been more just like conversational podcasts. I'm a big fan of just like all female, all girl power podcasts. So I listen to a lot of just like conversation podcasts. Sierra Unfiltered, I was a huge fan of. That recently ended within the past 6 months, and I'm
oh
very sad about it.
no.
Yeah, yeah, that's my favorite podcast. I still listen to past episodes. I'm a big fan of the Try Guys, and their wives and significant others just came out with a podcast called You Can Sit With Us. So that podcast is a really good one. Lucas and I just took a trip. We did a long road trip in the last couple of months. So I think I've listened to one of those podcasts while we were in the car, while I was driving. But yeah, that one's just a big conversation one. It's just the significant others just talking about things. They recently did an episode where they prank called one of the like boyfriends and husbands and stuff.
Dang.
So that was pretty funny. And then they did an episode where they talked about like the COVID vaccine for a little bit and like COVID in general. So that was a really interesting one. But yeah, and then Sierra Unfiltered kind of has that same vibe. It was Sierra Schultze and her best friend Skylar kind of talking about just like random topics. They talked about YouTubers because Sierra is a YouTuber. And they also talked about like theater a little bit because they both had a lot of background in theater. And they
Mm.
just talk about like random everyday stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
like they just talked about like Sierra, Skylar was pregnant during a lot of their podcasts, so they talked about pregnancy. They talked about mental health, which I'm a huge advocate kind of for. Really, I'm an advocate for mental health. So that was a really good one. And they also just had a lot of fun podcasts where they just laughed. And it really felt like with both of those podcasts, you were just sitting along with them, just listening on the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
which I really enjoyed. So I'm hoping that's something we can bring to this podcast. Um, my intro to podcast was also just sort of, and I think you're gonna laugh at me for this one because I don't know if you know this about me. um, I listen to a lot of Survivor podcast.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
I figured that. That makes sense.
So if you guys don't know about the show Survivor, it's a reality show where 20 people are basically on an island together for 39 days and they vote people off. Um, it's not a guilty pleasure of mine because I just watch it anyway, and I think Lucas knows I watch it and that I'm very
Uh-huh.
obsessed with it. Would you agree that that's probably like my top show?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. That's a top show of yours.
He's tried watching with me a couple times, and I don't think he's as into it as I am. But
No, not as much. I watched Kid Nation back in the day, but Survivor was just never the one. Total Drama Island.
that's a good show.
I mean, that's like a parody of Survivor, so. But no, I've
Yeah.
never really watched full Survivor, I guess you could say.
Nope. But yeah, Survivor has been a huge show I've been into since I was little. So I've listened to some Rob Has a Podcast episodes, especially their like after they have recap episodes after. I'm saying the word episodes a lot. They have recaps that they do after each of the episodes, so that's kind of fun to watch. But I've been listening to a smaller Survivor podcast called the Soul Survivor podcast, which is just two guys sitting and talking about survivor theories and creating their own tribes and stuff like that, creating
Wow.
their own themes. And
Uh-huh.
that's what I've been listening to in the morning when I've been getting ready. Um, so yeah, just kind of a huge fan of the conversational type podcasts is my
Mm-hmm.
main thing. Um, Kind of stuff that will like make me laugh or I don't know, that sort of thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. So how would you describe your podcast, Lucas?
Um, well, I remember discovering podcasts, maybe like 10 years ago. I was like, whoa, this is cool. And then um, I'm a very impatient person. So I like started one up and I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. And then yeah, I didn't really listen to it. I remember like when like Good Mythical Morning kind
I
of
love
like
Good Mythical
started.
Morning too. Yeah.
I didn't know it was a podcast. I just like kind of knew the videos because I have like pouring something into like a Brita or they have all
Mm-hmm.
those little videos. So I just knew it as that. Um, but then like it had this full podcast. And I tried listening to it, but it really wasn't something I could do. It's really something you got to put in like the background for me, which
Yeah.
is I do a lot of like when I do drive, I listen to podcasts. It's just a good way to like space out. I get, which I get. You don't really want to do driving, but it's helpful that way.
The Joe Rogan Experience a little bit, right? Is that one
Yeah,
you listen to a lot?
that's one I've been listening to a lot recently, which is the JRE, the Joe Rogan Experience. Um, how would I describe it? I guess it's kind of the jack of all trades. So basically, Joe Rogan, who is he's like a fighter, he's a commentator, he hosted Fear Factor, he's a comedian, he's now in Texas. Anyway, he gets celebrities and comedians and people on and basically just talks to them about stuff. And it's just always like random stuff. So usually I pick celebrities that I know. So the recent ones were Richard Rawlings, who was on Fast and Loud and owns Gas Monkey Garage. I've done like Elon Musk, Dan Aykroyd from Ghostbusters.
Kevin Hart when we were driving together.
Yep, Kevin
Kevin
Hart.
Hart.
Um, yeah, just people like that. And it's just kind of interesting to hear like their takes on stuff and like what they find important and what they find interesting. So I think that's what I really like about that. And it's also one of those that you really feel like you're kind of like the third person in the room. Kind of just sitting there, which is something I like to do. Kind of. I'm a very eavesdroppy type of person, I guess. Listening into conversations of other people. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of like you're a fly on the wall. So I like that one. And then I guess the other one is it's not a podcast. It's like a precursor to the podcast, but it's the Howard Stern show on
Okay.
Sirius XM. So it's basically just a podcast radio show. So I've been listening to a lot of that on the car rides, and I don't know. It's one of those. It took me a while to like get into it because there's like a lot of reoccurring jokes, and
Yeah.
but once you get it, it's pretty good. And I like it. There's these parts where he'll like cut up music bits and like make music with it. I think that's pretty funny. So yeah, that's pretty much my podcasting portfolio of what I listen to, I guess.
Back a little bit because I didn't know that you also watched Good Mythical Morning, and that is something I did not know. And I thought, wow, I'm gonna tell you that I watched Good Mythical Morning, and you're gonna be like, oh, that's weird. But yeah, that's just like I just want to go back on that because I feel like I always knew Rhett and Link existed, but I didn't listen to them fully until quarantine hit, and then I just started binging Good Mythical Morning shows, and those are really funny. I really I've been enjoying those a lot lately. I think because they just kind of make you feel good, and it's not like a super heavy like show at all. So I was just very intrigued that you mentioned that because I completely forgot that I also just started listening to their podcast Ear Biscuits too.
Wow.
Which is interesting to me. I don't know. And you mentioned like those were a little bit difficult to get into, but I guess I like sitting down and hearing them talk about like stories of their life because I feel like their story is just so interesting. And they've been YouTubers, I think, for like a long time, right?
Yeah, they were in. I think like I remember they were in one of the YouTube rewinds. I want to say it was like 2012. They were in
I remember YouTube reruns.
The Call Me Maybe one.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still going strong, and I didn't realize that until I just kept binging their shows.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think I knew those podcasts you listened to too, and I think you also brought a good point about how like the Howard Stern especially was like a radio show. So I think podcasts are kind of transitioning into being more of what talk radio used to be. Instead of people not listening to talk radio, they're not listening to podcasts more. Would you agree to that? Or
yeah, I would definitely agree to that. I think there's also kind of that barrier to entry with radio.
Yeah.
You know, you could. Well, so with Howard Stern, he's on Sirius XM, which obviously you need like a radio subscription for, and they talk about that on the show too. How it's like a I don't know, I guess a higher audience because you know you have to pay for it, so you're not just getting like the random bums off the street with FM radio. But
yeah.
I mean, they're basically just a talk radio station, and then you have kind of your like morning radio announcers. I know there's a couple around here that do that, but then I think podcasts really opened it up because you could listen to them anytime. You didn't have to listen from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. You could anyone could really do it. It could be about anything. You could be about Survivor or interviewing celebrities. It could just be about anything. So I think that's really why it took off.
Yeah. And I don't know, I guess the comfort I get from podcasts is just something I want to hope will happen with other people when listening to this. Whether that be just a couple of our friends who we told this podcast to, who are just like, yeah, I'll listen to it when you release it, or whatever happens to it. So I know it's just something we've talked about for a while, so and we were really excited about starting, so I'm glad we're kind of finally starting it and hopefully seeing where it grows from here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I guess speaking about the podcasts, what are like the elements you're hoping to kind of incorporate into this podcast?
I think there's like for me specifically, I think kind of the main things I'm kind of bringing is just that sense of comfort to people, and also just being able to talk to you about stuff a lot more than just over text message or whatever. I think for me that's something I'm really excited about, and just kind of learning about stuff we don't normally talk about either. Like I said, I did not know you watched Good Mythical Morning, and I feel like that's just so opening to me. So I think there's benefits to me in just having these types of conversations with you and getting insight. And specifically, our main concept for this podcast was just kind of more learning about each other's interests, because we share a lot of the same interests. We've known each other for over 2 years now, so we pretty much know a lot about one another. But there's something...
obviously not. If you didn't know, I listened to Good Mythical Morning.
You know what, Lucas? Listen, um, I just think we know a lot about each other, but we don't know everything. And I know each of us has our own interests. We want to have, sorry, I was getting a call. We want to have each other, like, get to know. So, like, Lucas is very into cars specifically, and that's something we'll probably talk about eventually.
Hmm.
Or me with reading and stuff,
Ooh.
and not that's just an example, not specifically reading, but like, you know what I mean, like
Hmm.
stuff that um, each of us don't really get to talk about with each other,
Hmm.
and just dedicating an amount of time where we get to talk about it and just kind of gush about it. Maybe it'll be an eye opening in the fact that maybe you'll find something you can like enjoy in my interests, or I'll find something I can enjoy in your interests, and we can just kind of bond over that.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that with other people listening to this, maybe they'll also get weirdly an insight on how we work and how we talk. But also like feel like they could be that third person listening in
Hmm.
on our conversation, and hopefully we bring them joy and make them laugh and entertain them for the 5 seconds that I'm funny for.
Yeah, definitely. That's true.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
But what about you? What is like items you're hoping to like bring to this?
Yeah, I think definitely trying to do like those emulation things of like, well, one, I think it'd be cool to like get guests on or something and like,
Yeah.
kind of talk to them. Because, like you said, like, we've known each other for 2 years, but like, what about the other like 20 years that we've been uh, not knowing each other, I guess. So, like, there's all that, but then you bring in like a third person and, I don't know.
Yeah. Or like a friend or something, and like we can just all go on about something, or you know, just our experiences. That'd be cool to do too.
Yeah, bringing that in, and then I think other things is like reoccurring jokes would be kind of cool. Like little reoccurring things that'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that happened, or I don't know. I think that might be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like little sound effects or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're very much starting this, I think, just fresh and trying to see where it goes, which I think is the important thing. Is we don't really have huge plans for it. We're just trying to see what we enjoy doing, and hopefully, you listening to this, whoever's listening to this, will like see that we're just like amateurs at this and starting out, and hopefully, as you keep listening, there is that growth, and hopefully, we still keep you intrigued.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
me
Yeah.
talking to a fourth wall to a certain extent there.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, okay. Shall we move on
We should move on.
to maybe not the featured topic, but a big topic in our lives, and that is
Well,
WandaVision.
recently, yeah,
Recently,
recently a big
yes, very
topic.
much. So we actually, on Friday, it's now Sunday, we watched you call it series finale, season finale?
Say the finale because I think it was like a limited series. I don't think they're gonna bring it back. There's, it's kind of difficult for them to bring it back.
That's true. But anyway,
Yeah.
it was the finale of WandaVision. And for those of you that don't know what WandaVision is, it's a show about one of the Avengers
Well,
being
two
in
of them.
two Avengers being in a show, um, and they have like a family, and then there's these other people that want to try and stop the show and figure out why the show is happening. And I just said show a lot in that sentence back there.
I'm I'm laughing really hard because I'm just watching Lucas describe this, and I'm just like he's gonna go on about it. Um, I can explain it a little bit more if you want me to. Yeah.
Definitely.
So, WandaVision is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's kind of the major, I would say, like storyline we get from some of the Avengers after Avengers Endgame for the first time. So we're kind of seeing what life is like. I mean, we saw that in Spider-Man Far From Home a little bit, but not quite to this extent, I feel like. So we're kind of seeing a lot more of the repercussions from what happened after the events of Avengers Endgame. Spoiler alert for anybody who is not seen Avengers Endgame and is interested in WandaVision. So spoiler alert here. Ignore me for like the little bit of time we talk about WandaVision, I guess, if you don't want to be spoiled about it. Maybe you can put like a spoiler learning time in the description of this.
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah,
probably. But basically, post everybody coming back after like the snap, they undid the snap in Endgame, basically. So in this, we see Wanda Maximoff and her love interest Vision live through each of the different decades of sitcoms. With that, we see them from like the 50s up until the modern era of sitcoms. So basically from, I think, what was the first one? Like the Dick Van Dyke Show,
Yep.
I Love Lucy. Kind of those like sorts of beginnings into the 60s again, like that same vibe. They went to the 70s where they focused on, what were the ones they focused on in the 70s? I don't know the show specifically.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah. And then the 80s you have like Family Ties, you have all of those sort of sitcoms. The 90s you had Malcolm in the Middle.
Yep.
Full House was like the 80s.
Full House.
And then up until like the early 2000s where you have sitcoms like The Office and Modern Family and those like that. So basically we're following Wanda and Vision through those decades, and we're trying to see what they're doing. Wanda, I can explain the plot now, I guess, because I gave everybody a spoiler warning. I don't know. But basically that's what's happening. We're following Wanda and Vision through the decades, trying to figure out what's wrong, trying to figure out why this sitcom TV show is happening, to the town of Westview specifically. I really loved this show. And Lucas and I had watched this together, actually. This was something we specifically watched with one another, and we made time for it to do. Whether that be we were in person together watching it, or most of the time we were apart watching it at our own houses. But that's just something we watched together. So that's just the new way Marvel is, I think, doing things with the MCU in terms of kind of their minor characters, or maybe people who are in those first, like, phase 1 movies. So, like, WandaVision was kind of the first limited series they were doing on, like, these characters. And then it just ended on Friday, which was very good ending. I think I was disappointed a little bit in some parts of the ending, but that's okay. We can get into that more. And then they're going to do another limited series in a couple weeks with the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I'm very excited for because the previews make it look like they're in like marriage counseling. So
is that a show or is that a movie?
It's a show. It's another show.
Okay.
And then they're gonna do another show type with Loki, I think, in the fall.
Okay.
But yeah, so WandaVision basically follows Wanda and Vision as they have a family, with a lot of other stuff going on, which we can dive into and talk about. Obviously, I can just get into how Wanda basically overtakes a tiny town in New Jersey called Westview, and basically puts like a trance on these people to kind of basically be people in her sitcom, right? Yeah. And then she surrounds this town with like a field of sorts, and you have major like governmental authorities. You have the FBI and like the CIA trying to figure out how to stop them. SWORD specifically is the one that is trying to stop them completely. SWORD is the space version of SHIELD, as you know it, as you would see. So in SWORD we have kind of two main characters. Two of the major characters are Monica Rambeau, who is the daughter of Maria Rambeau, who is Carol Danvers' best friend. So Captain Marvel's best friend's daughter is Monica Rambeau, who is our main SWORD person in this movie, as well as Tyler Hayward, who is the director of SWORD, who I didn't like during it. You're supposed to not like him during it. But yeah, it's hard to explain WandaVision without watching WandaVision. Wouldn't you agree? Because you can't really give away. You give away a lot if you just don't watch it. So you need to watch it to kind of understand it.
Yeah, I will say that like when I first saw the ads, like before we even watched it. I was very confused.
Yeah.
And even now, trying to describe it would be very confusing as someone that hasn't seen it. So,
Yep. So, I mean, if you're haven't seen it and you're still listening, go watch the previews for it and
mhm.
then go watch it. It'll make so much more sense when we kind of talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Which is just what we thought of WandaVision and like our favorite parts and stuff like that. But
hmm
go watch it. I really enjoyed the show. I think it's not like something I've seen before.
hmm
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I think
I don't know.
definitely that. I will say one thing I did really like is this is kind of the first show I've ever watched that was kind of like a show within a show. Like
Yeah.
seeing the show in the show. Because there's been a lot of like shows where like they're watching something and they like make up a little parody thing, like a parody show, but you don't really get to see the whole thing. And this was like those like the first 3 or 4 episodes you got to see like the show
Yeah. And
in the
then
show.
after that you know more of the storyline because
hmm
what kind of happens is you watch like the show that Wanda's producing,
hmm
but then you see the repercussions of the show Wanda's seeing. So you see people reacting to what Wanda's doing too,
hmm
which is kind of where you get like the major MCU vibes from that.
hmm
Um, yeah, that was something I really enjoyed about it. I think I enjoyed that it was also just so long. I feel like Marvel movies are long in general sitting, but I think
hmm
maybe having a TV show also allows them to make the plot a lot longer and carry stuff out. So I think that's something that they can use in the future with maybe stuff that they produce instead of just doing like a 2.5 hour movie. They can just do a like TV series about it,
hmm
which is good.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's the thing because when you think of, well, usually TV shows are a lot cheaper.
Yeah,
Um, But I mean, when you think about it, if you just think about it as another movie, it's like a 7.5 hour movie. Then, um,
right.
which is pretty good. Or I guess it really depends on how much you like it. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting, and I wonder it'd be interesting to see like the budgets between like
Mm-hmm.
WandaVision and like some other movie. But
I could. I'm gonna look that up quick while you're
okay,
talking.
but I will say
So
the other thing is when they like take these kind of small characters, because to be honest, and I'm not like a big Marvel buff, but I don't think the Wanda was really that much of a character previously. So it kind of turned her into like this, kind of side little blippy character into like a full character, and then it kind of made me go like, yeah, she's kind of important. Like I want to see what happens to her.
well, I think I just looked it up, and actually, I probably shouldn't have looked it up with like the budget for Avengers Endgame,
Yeah.
but the budget of like WandaVision was $25 million,
Okay.
whereas the budget for Avengers Endgame was $356 million,
Yeah.
in U.S. dollars.
Yep.
But I'm gonna look up what it was for
If you did like,
Spider-Man: Homecoming.
yeah, that would work. If you did like one of the like
Yeah,
first Iron Man movies, I think.
yeah, because
So
so Spider-Man: Homecoming, or they gave me the Far From Home one, was
okay.
$160 million, and then I'm
Yeah.
gonna do Iron Man.
Well, I think kind of the like good thing about a TV show is though they feel that they can get kind of like lower end actors. Not that they're like
Yeah,
lower skilled, but they just don't have that like famousness to them. I guess you could say.
yeah, but I think with specifically, I think the WandaVision cast, they did have some higher actors in there.
Yeah, they did.
Like, you had Catherine Hahn in there, you had Elizabeth Olsen. Whoa, that was weird. Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany,
Uh-huh.
who were your major. They were in the Avengers movies, so
Mhm.
like those are your major characters you pretty much had.
Mhm.
Um, and then you had good old Jimmy Woo in there, who was in the Ant-Man movies, and we loved him so much. Was also in there, and I mean he
Mhm.
was a side character in another Marvel movie, so maybe that's how they were able to have a smaller budget, was through hiring the smaller actors who were background characters in these
Mhm.
different movies.
Mhm.
Um, did I tell you the Iron Man budget? I just
No.
found it. It was 140 million. So if
Yeah.
you think about it, the WandaVision budget was a fifth of the size of the first Iron Man movie, and when
Mhm.
they did Iron Man, they had a smaller budget anyway because they didn't know how far this film would go. Also a great film, by the way, if you haven't seen it. But I don't know. I think they have the ability to get like the lower characters, but in a way, I think when you have those few title characters in there, it really can pull more people into it. And while they have the small budget, I think like your major pull is seeing two Avengers together and seeing two people who were really affected by Avengers Endgame as a whole and Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah.
That was just something that they were able to, I think, draw audiences in on. And I think another major thing they had going for them is because of the pandemic, we haven't had a new MCU thing in probably about a year.
Yeah.
I think. So I think that was also something they had going for them. But yeah, I would agree with that usually they use like lower characters. And I think and Marvel has done TV shows before. They've had, I think, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like Agent Peggy Carter on ABC.
Yep. And then
I don't think
they had what was it was something Arrow, Dark Arrow.
Was that an MCU?
I'm not sure. But...
Oh, okay. I know they had the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is not specifically canon in the MCU, so it's not like accepted. And then they had Agent Peggy Carter. And I wonder what the budgets were for that one as well. But I guess, so I guess it might be different too if it's a limited series compared to like a full-on TV season, you know? So, but I think in terms of shows that Marvel is producing, I think WandaVision is probably more successful than the other shows they've done. Just because they've had movie characters in there.
Well, I think they almost make them in a different style now because I know I've like seen this before. So basically, let's just say 10 years ago, you would make a show like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's filmed and set up to play on the 30-minute, hour-long slot with commercials. And WandaVision is different because they know that it's just going to go on Disney Plus and that people are going to binge it, and that you also don't need commercials, although they had some commercials in the show.
Which were part of the show, but...
Yeah, which were part of the show. But I think they just film it and they just script it differently than they would like a normal traditional TV show would have been filmed.
Yeah.
So...
I think with Disney specifically, I think they're aiming, since they did bring Disney Plus in the last year and a half, I think they're just trying to produce like high-end TV shows. Like they did that with Mandalorian too, I think. Yeah, so but yeah, I really liked that format in WandaVision. I really liked it with how it was spread out. What was another thing that you really enjoyed about it?
I think, well, one thing I was really surprised of is, so I had mentioned before I have kind of like a short attention span, and usually like an hour-long TV show is kind of a no-go for me. I think the only like really hour-long TV shows I've ever enjoyed are like Breaking Bad, but like the problem with an hour-long is it's just kind of too long for me, and it didn't feel that way with this. Granted, it was like 42 minutes plus 12-minute credits, but I don't know, it felt fast-paced, and maybe that was just because I was interested in it. But it kept my attention, which was good.
Yeah, I think I agree with that too. I think for me, the main thing that kept me going was just the anticipation every week. Like after we watched an episode, all I wanted was to watch the next one. So normally with this type of series, I think I would binge it, but because it was spread out, I really enjoyed how every week I watched it, it was holding my attention. And I think that's just because of how fast paced it was, like you were saying. But I think it also because I knew these characters too before. I'm a little bit more into the Marvel Cinematic Universe than you are a little bit. So I had seen like Avengers Endgame and all of these movies, all the other movies preceding that. But I think I just, like you mentioned too, I had not known a whole lot about Wanda Maximoff prior
Mm-hmm.
to just the Avengers Infinity War movie. And I think WandaVision really made her one of my favorite characters,
Mm-hmm.
like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it really humanizes her to a certain extent because as Wanda was introduced to us before, wasn't she was a background character like you were saying. And she was always, I think, misunderstood
Mm-hmm.
because she was very dangerous to a lot of people and very chaotic and doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of good kind of like a good view, I don't think, in like the previous movies until we
Mm-hmm.
see her maybe in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. So I think her getting her own series really, it's kind of her origin story, I think, to an extent, because spoiler alert, she does get the Scarlet Witch name eventually from this series, which it was never mentioned before in her
Uh,
appearances. So I think um this served as her origin story in the
mm-hmm.
fact that we finally see what she went through and understand her pain and struggles and what made her the hero. Like we saw, like comparable to the Iron Man movie where we saw
Yep.
Iron Man go through all these struggles, it finally cemented her as a hero and like a chaotic one, but
Mm-hmm.
she still is a hero in the fact of what she eventually released everybody.
Mm-hmm.
um and we realized that yeah, she did take advantage of all these people and did do a lot of wrong, but it wasn't her intention immediately to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she just didn't know her power and capabilities up until the point.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I would say that Scarlet Witch is probably one of my favorite Avengers, though, now. I think
Nice.
Spider-Man is my top one, but
Wow,
I
which
think
Spider-Man would that be? Just for the reference here?
Tom Holland.
No, that's the
Yes,
wrong one.
that's where we disagree on. There's some things that Lucas and I disagree on when it
Yeah,
comes to movies and Spider-Mans. I love the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
and
Um,
I love the Tobey Maguire one.
yes, he does.
Uh,
We also get into this debate about Shrek movies too, which we could
which
probably talk about another.
another day. No, but thinking about um, the show, I think one of the good things is, so they obviously had a choice. So they filmed this show probably a year ago. So
Mm-hmm.
they were all done.
Well, I
Even
think it
when
was
first,
over a year ago because I think
well,
it
I'm
got
sure,
delayed because of the pandemic.
but I think they really had the choice of, do we drop all the episodes now, or do
Mm-hmm.
we do it week by week? And I think the kind of advantage with doing it week by week is that it got a lot more kind of traction with social
Right.
media. Hmm.
Yep.
I remember, like after you watch like an Avengers movie and you're like, who's that guy? That like 10-second clip at the end.
Yeah.
And then you'd go watch like a video. And that happened with every episode with this show.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
same with like TikTok and stuff. So
Yep.
I think it definitely captured a lot of more media than say like a Netflix show that just dumps them all at one point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. I think they really had that going for them because they were really keeping people on their toes at that point.
hmm
Um, and I was one of the individuals who was just watching all of these theories and everything that was coming out week by week, as you very well know, because I would send you the TikToks talking
yep.
about some of these theories.
My
Um,
favorite thing about that is when the theories were wrong. That was always the best thing. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, you know what, guys? What's the gym guy, John Krasinski?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's coming on." I was like, no way, we would know this by now, no way, and I was right. So
And I feel like it's funny though because I would send you these and I would be so hyped about it and you never reacted to them.
that's because I know it's already done. Yeah, they're not gonna just like. They don't just film it the week of. They're like, oh, let's get Jim on this show.
There was the joke going around that John Krasinski was already
Mhm.
on the show because Randall Park played um, Jimmy. Randall Park played
Mhm.
Jim Halpert in like I think the prank episode as like a prank on The Office.
Yeah, it was
right?
one of the cold opens.
Yeah.
He
So
played like an Asian Jim.
yeah, so they're like John Krasinski's already on the show and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I saw
It
that
was
like
not.
every single week. And then another theory that everybody was wrong about was Mephisto I don't know if I sent you any of
I
those.
have no idea what that is.
Yeah, so basically, apparently I watch a lot more theory videos than Lucas does on this. But apparently in the comics, Agatha Harkness, who we find out is the eventual antagonist to Wanda in the series, is married to a guy named Mephisto, and her goal is to basically take the powers of Wanda's twins to bring Mephisto into into like our dimension. And he never showed up, and everybody was like, we were believing that Mephisto was going to be here for like 6 weeks, and then he never showed up, and everybody was wearing the clown face. I don't know if you are familiar with that meme.
I'm
basically
not.
basically people are like, we're clowns for like thinking this. And then my other favorite one is also the stuff about Evan Peters being in WandaVision. There was so many theories surrounding why Evan Peters was in WandaVision, and whether that meant that they were bringing the ideas of like the multiverse dimensions into the MCU yet or not. Because if you don't know this, Evan Peters plays Quicksilver in the X-Men movies. So he was brought into WandaVision, and he's playing Wanda's brother, but they recast Pietro in WandaVision. So there was theories going around that he was introducing the theory of the multiverse into the MCU, because it's rumored that in the new Spider-Man film that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to be in it as Spider-Mans from a different dimension in time. So but that ended up not being true. Evan Peters ended up playing a character named Ralph Boner, who is an actor in Westview. So I was very disappointed that they didn't elaborate more after that on Ralph Boner, because I was just very confused whether that meant that he was just an actor living in Westview or like what. So that really confused me. But maybe they just didn't have enough time to like bring that to light, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of figured we like would never see Ralph, because what was it? It was Agnes, or Agnes is her name, the neighbor.
Yeah.
She was always like, "Oh, I wish Ralph did
My
that."
husband Ralph or whatever.
Yeah. So I figured we would never see him.
Yeah.
And then so.
Yeah. But I thought there were some parts I think to it that they definitely didn't tie, which I think I was disappointed about in the finale. They didn't really wrap up some of the parts, I don't think, 100%. Like how Jimmy Woo talks about that he has a person in witness protection in Westview, and we never find out who that person is.
Oh, I don't remember.
Do you remember that?
Well,
he mentioned that.
One thing I remember, do you remember the very first episode when they like roll up to the force field or whatever? And they're, there's like 2 cops there, and then the SHIELD guys roll up, and they're like, something, and there is no Westview or something.
Yeah.
Like, and then like there was, but there wasn't, or was there no Eastview, or I don't get that.
I don't remember either, but I know because they were standing right there. So what I didn't get is, why do these people not know Westview exists, but other people do? And they never addressed why people didn't know that Westview existed, I guess. So that was also kind of confusing to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe I don't think that's something we'll ever know, but it's also a minor thing, I think, to the entire plot. I also I wasn't very satisfied in how they ended with Darcy, because she kind of just rammed the Jeep into Hayward's vehicle and then left.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, that's not very wrapped up, so I'd like to know, like, especially with like the people in Westview specifically, because Monica got her powers from being in Westview and passing through that wall. So I'm wondering if anybody else is having like any sort of weird random like mishaps or like mutant gene in them. There was also a theory that being in WandaVision was going to erupt her power on the entire planet and bring out like mutants that we see in X-Men too. So that's how they thought they were going to tie that, because Disney now owns the X-Men. So
Yep.
they thought they were going to reintroduce them in the MCU, which hasn't quite happened yet.
No, but
Um,
here's something I've been thinking about. Well, should we talk about the finale, the last episode?
yeah, I think
Okay,
because
we
it's so
can.
fresh.
Okay, so spoiler alert now. Click away now to later in the video. But so at the very end, you know how she like defeats Agnes, and then she's like, "I'll leave you here," and turns her into like the
Yeah,
resident person. Well, what happens when that force field like clips
yeah,
away? Like, is she still
yeah.
in the thing?
Maybe she had it so that just Agnes's house was like the force, like the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can only think about because
Mm-hmm.
like what does she do with Agnes when she like locks her in like the nosy neighbor thing?
Yeah. See,
And
I
also
thought,
like
I
how does
thought,
she know to?
yeah. So what I thought is that just the house was gonna be like covered, so there was still gonna be like the
The
vision
kids and
and the
stuff,
kids
yeah.
just in the house, and she could leave. But then I'd be like,
Hmm.
that'd be kind of sucky if you were the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, that's what I was wondering too, is like what happened specifically to Agnes and
Hmm.
like how is she, does Wanda just know her powers capability of like trapping her in that persona forever, or
Hmm.
kind of what happens with that. So I'm wondering if that'll be addressed again in the future. Um, that was kind of cool though. I will say, and I think I told you this, that Catherine, when we were watching, is Catherine Hahn's appearance seemed to change during the entire like last episode. Like
Hmm.
I think it started one way, and then she kept getting like more like witchy and witchy and witchy, and then at the end she like, got to be like Agnes. And
Hmm.
I saw a lot of tweets about her in the nosy neighbor persona and
Hmm.
how she has like a really pained smile in that scene when she's looking at Wanda, and how people really felt bad for her, which I do feel bad for her to a certain extent, but
Yeah.
um she was also being bad. I mean, they were both being bad. So
Yeah.
I mean, Wanda had got rid of her, I guess Wanda's punishment, and she couldn't have her family anymore.
Hmm.
um but I mean, that brings me to another point of between the two visions and me being very confused about what like actual Vision is doing,
Hmm.
because he just kind of flew away.
Hmm.
And I know he was probably having an identity crisis at that time, but I was just very confused. I'm like, we're not going to see what happens to him.
Well,
And I know it's probably
yep.
their way of being like, you need to tune in for more.
Hmm.
But I'm like, I want to know what happens. Like,
Well, here is my theory about Vision, the new Vision, the White Vision. See, I thought this was going to happen at the very end with like the end scene. You know, she's in the like the
little cabin.
Icelandic house. Yes, I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
she was going to be sitting there drinking her coffee, and then and then even like going with the scene. You know, it goes to she's like floating. I thought we
Yeah.
were just going to hear like a little thud or something, and it was like, Vision.
Vision. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be in there somewhere. So maybe that's the start of the next like little thing. It like
Yeah.
continues on that scene.
Yeah. I think this was supposed to lead into the new Doctor Strange movie. Because they mentioned the Supreme One. I don't know if you like. I think Agnes mentions that, and she's like, "Yeah, you're more powerful than the Supreme person, Supreme
Mm.
Superior, whatever it is," which
Mm.
is Doctor Strange himself. So Doctor Strange is like the Supreme One. He's supposed to be the one who's like all powerful.
Mm.
So at the end, when with the post credit scene, when Wanda is like in that position, that was totally. I've seen Doctor Strange doing that before, so I'm like, oh, she's doing the Doctor Strange thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the theory is that this is supposed to lead into the new Doctor Strange movie, and maybe she'll return in that. But I don't know how they're gonna wrap Vision back into that.
Mm-hmm. What I wonder about with Vision, so you remember when they were like thinking about putting him back together? They're like, oh yeah, he's not gonna have any like, I don't know, like love, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wonder, like, does he have that? See, I thought what also could happen is, they go off and like find Vision and they like reconnect and they like actually have a family, not just like a weird like fake
Fake family.
Yeah, like make that reality.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I thought was gonna happen.
Yeah, I thought at that moment, just my like envisioning like a picture perfect like cheesy wraparound was that when fake Vision, or I guess the Mind Stone, like Wanda's reincarnation of Vision,
Mm-hmm.
told um like the actual Vision about all this, I thought the actual Vision was going to go and be like Wanda and like go back and like
Mm-hmm.
help Wanda, but he ended up just
Oh, yeah.
going away.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it makes sense because I feel like the last memory he had was him and Wanda.
Dying.
Yeah, well, him dying and Wanda, or Thanos killing Wanda, or
Uh-huh.
Thanos killing Vision. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I was just like, where's that going to go from here? And I think they had that choice on purpose.
Mm.
Um, we can talk about, I guess, the kids and like, I don't know, what was your feelings about that when she like got rid of the kids? Like, how did you feel about that?
Um, I thought it was like all good, but I thought she was gonna be like, closing the door, like, see you tomorrow, or, like something optimistic, and she's like, thanks for letting me be your mom.
Yeah. Well, at the end of that post credit scene, you remember she was reading I think it's called the Darkhold or whatever, like the
Mm-hmm.
book.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like crying out for her, so she was
Yeah.
like definitely looking into how to get them back.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I guess for me, I was, before seeing that end scene, I was very much like, but what about her kids? She just wants to get rid of her kids right away, or not get rid of her kids, but she's like,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like she's not going to do anything to try to get her kids back
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. Because like you said, I thought she was just going to put it over the house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I was really wondering like how the kids are going to come back into this and how she's going to get the kids, and like what is she going to get her own movie after this where she's trying to get her kids, or is she just going to be
Mm-hmm.
the side character in all these other movies like the Doctor Strange movie and the
Oh.
Spider-Man movie in
Mm-hmm.
getting her kids back? That was just my major like thought on that.
Mm-hmm. See what she needs to do. So you remember in Frozen where Olaf had his own little personal cloud?
Yeah, she just
So
have a little
Vision and two
personal.
children, they just need little personal domes. That's it.
That's
That's the
true.
solution. Marvel, call me up. That's the
I mean,
solution.
to be fair, um the couple who wrote the Frozen soundtrack, the Frozen score, and all the Frozen songs wrote
Mm-hmm.
the WandaVision score. So
Well, there you go.
yeah. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to just kind of touch on WandaVision was Monica Rambeau as a character and
Mm-hmm.
like where we think she's going from here.
Mm.
Because in that end scene she had um she now has her powers, so like obviously where does this lead her? And then
Mm-hmm.
she talked to I think it's a scroll. I don't remember the exact like alien
She talked to the
race in
green
here.
people.
She talked to the same the same species as in Captain Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
which we knew she was friends with from Captain Marvel, and basically being like, he's requested you. So
Mm-hmm.
people were theorizing that it was Nick Fury because Nick Fury is in space currently.
Mm.
Um, so I think maybe she's going to be in the next Captain Marvel movie because there's another Captain Marvel movie coming out. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Monica Rambeau maybe is going to hook back up with Carol Danvers because Monica's mom passed away, and Carol probably now knows that Monica's back. So
Yeah.
I think that what is going to lead next into Monica's story is she's going to maybe be in Captain Marvel too, and maybe be a major character in that.
Yeah. I'm not sure she has the enough, I don't know, backstory or skill to have her own movie yet.
I think she will eventually. I think this was just also her origin story, but also
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't know much about her own powers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she also needs to learn about her powers to have her own movie to a certain extent. But I
Mm-hmm.
think she will definitely be a main character in some other movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we've discussed finale bits, what's your biggest gripe? The thing you hated the most?
About WandaVision?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really hard one. I think for me, it was just that there was some stuff that wasn't wrapped up at the end of WandaVision.
Yeah.
Like I said, some of the like loose ties that we thought were going to be addressed, but were never addressed.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that Marvel movies usually do address those things, and how some of the stuff in WandaVision, because how Marvel movies work is there's a lot of Easter eggs and ties to other things. And some of the stuff that we thought were going to be major ties weren't. So I think maybe there could have been more thought into some of the major, like, things in WandaVision. Like, maybe there could have been an Easter egg about, and there were Easter eggs definitely, but maybe just, like, having it mean more than one thing. But overall, that's kind of just my main negative about it. I really loved it as a whole. I wish maybe the last episode was longer.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
what
the
about
thing
you?
I did not like was there was so many Easter eggs. That was what I did not like. So, like we've mentioned, I don't know as much about MCU stuff. I'm what you could call a casual viewer. I watch the movies, and sometimes I never watch them again, but I watch some of the good ones. So a lot of this stuff, I had no idea what it was. And, they're like hinting at, they weren't even like hinting, they were just like throwing it in your face, like little like Easter eggs. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. And, at a certain point, you don't want to go watch more YouTube videos about what each little thing means. So, I think that's my biggest gripe, is that there was too many.
I love how complete opposite our biggest negatives were. Okay. But
Yeah.
any final thoughts on that? Or
Um,
should we just move on?
no, I think it's good.
What
It's
would you
time
what
to
would you
say
rate it out of
goodbye.
10?
Out of 10,
Yeah.
I would give WandaVision the same score that I would give like Iron Man 1.
Which is
Um, I'd give it like a 7. It's got,
okay.
well, granted I don't know if it has good rewatchability, but like Iron Man you can just like watch. No, it's Iron Man is better. So WandaVision would be like a 5 or 6.
Oh.
Because I don't know. I feel like it doesn't have the best rewatchability. Maybe it does.
Well, that's why I think you definitely know what it is now when you rewatch it, so you can't experience some of the same twists again.
Mm-hmm.
But I would give it, I think, like an 8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I really liked, just as a female, just seeing this sort of human side of Wanda and seeing her as kind of a hero in a new way we haven't seen her before. And I think the rewatchability, like you said, it is hard to maybe rewatch it for the same twists and turns, but I think there's a lot of nods and Easter eggs you can rewatch in it. And maybe you can look back and see how Agnes was in all of this other things, and, it was Agatha all along. You can see how Agnes kind of shaped stuff, and I think that's, like, the rewatchability you get from it, and you can see why something happened like that. I think that is just what it can allow for. But
yeah,
can we talk about how good the Agatha All Along song was, though?
yeah, that's pretty
so
good.
good. Like, it actually hit like top 100 on iTunes chart. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah.
No, I didn't know
like
that.
It hit the charts, which was pretty good.
Nice.
But
I was gonna say. So what it reminds me of is like the rewatchability. I think now you could probably rewatch it and like look for those moments that like Agnes was like doing the dirty
Agatha All
Along stuff. Yeah. So what it reminds me of is The Sixth Sense. If you've ever seen that movie.
I have not.
So basically, I'm gonna spoil the movie for everyone, but it came out in the '90s, so like if you haven't seen it, tough luck. But basically, it stars.
Is it Jack Nicholson in it?
No, it's the Die Hard guy. So.
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis. So Bruce Willis is a child psychiatrist doctor, and he's assigned to this child, and the child is disturbed in a way that he sees dead people.
Okay, yeah, we know that line.
Yeah, we know that line. But anyway, at the very end of the movie, it turns out that Bruce Willis is dead.
Oh,
and that the kid was seeing him the whole time. So I think,
that's kind of funny.
so when you like watch it again, you're kind of like, it's just a ghost. So it kind of loses it.
It's just
But
a ghost.
so we'll see if it
Yeah.
lost its rewatchability after that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So good conversation on WandaVision there.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely.
and now we're gonna try to transition into our last topic, and I think I don't know what time wise we want to do, but we're gonna play a game of this or that, just so you can get to know us a little bit more, and
Okay.
so we can fight and bicker about stuff because I love doing that with him. So with you, so yeah. I found a list of this or that thing. So if you want to open it out in your computer too, otherwise I can just read some of
Yes.
them off.
Yep, I have it open.
Okay, awesome. So we can do some simple ones. So I have cookies or cake. I would say I think cookies.
I think casually I'd want cookies, but like special occasion I'd want cake. So
Okay,
yeah.
this is how you're gonna do it. All right. Um, so cats or dogs? This is a hard one. What would you say?
Um, I think I'm kind of ready in my life for a cat companion. I've
Yeah,
had dog
I
companions. I'm ready for a cat companion.
yeah, I would say I think I prefer cats just because of their independence, but I really
Mm,
love dogs.
mm,
Um, this one, yeah. So on the next one, I have computer games or video games, which I was a little confused about
those are
when I
basically the
initially wrote that
same
down.
things now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think for me, probably honestly, computer games. I think like if I'm thinking back to like Pop Tropica and like all those other fun stuff from like middle school, I think
Uh-huh.
computer games I really enjoyed more.
Hmm.
But I do like Animal Crossing, but I don't play like a lot of video games.
Yeah. Um, we'll see them. Well, I guess if you look at like computer games from like 10 years ago, those were kind of computer games, but now it's just kind of
Yeah,
like the
all the
big
same.
titles are all the same. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yes. Pancakes or waffles? I said pancakes.
We'll see, it really depends on your location.
I knew you were
So,
gonna say that. I knew a lot of these were gonna be like depends.
so if I was down south, Waffle House. If I'm, in the Midwest, then Perkins Pancakes. But you
Just
gotta go
literally
after
Perkins
what, like
pancakes.
8 p.m. so you can get the unlimited
9.
9 p.m.
9 p.m.
Don't even go
Lucas
during the day.
Lucas and I have been to a Perkins together a couple times after we've done like our college had like a dance we could do. They had a big ball that you could do. So we've been to
Hmm.
Perkins after that and after another thing and he just got the unlimited
Hmm.
pancakes.
And great
And he
value, great value. I think it's probably like 2 or 3.99. Much better value than getting like say biscuits and gravy.
which he is the thing is what I get at Perkins. So he literally just knocks me.
So yeah, so if you only want
Ugh.
to spend like $5 compared to like 10, go for the pancakes.
Are you just gonna drag me during some of this?
Yeah.
Morning or evening? I would say evening.
So I used to be a morning person. Back in middle school and early high school, I used to wake up at 5 a.m. to watch cartoons.
Oh gosh.
Um, so I was never really the teenager to like sleep until like noon. And then I met someone, and then my 10 p.m. bedtime got pushed back to about a midnight bedtime.
Yeah, but
So
that's not bad.
it's not great.
Yes, there's someone he's talking about is me.
Uh-huh. I used
When
to be
we
like
first
a
met,
firm 10 p.m. in
yeah,
bed.
when we first met, he would be in bed by 10 p.m. and probably asleep by like 10:30 or 11. And then when we were the first summer when we started dating, I was working 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night, so
Hmm.
I'd get off of work at 11. I think that kept him awake a little bit more was because I would not be able to talk to him till after 11 p.m. So, yeah.
Hmm.
And now he stays up later than me. So, a little bit.
Well, I have
Sometimes.
for a couple days. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Just because I am working full time. I'm just started a full-time job, so I'm really tired. I've been really tired coming back from work. Um anyway, day or night?
Day.
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. Like, I'm totally a night owl, but I
Mm-hmm.
really appreciate the sun being up.
Mm-hmm.
So I would also say day. Text message or call.
Text message.
Yeah. I would say in this circumstance, I think it really depends. Because I think if it was me
Mm-hmm.
that you had to text message or call, I think you'd rather call me. In terms of like stuff, you're like,
Okay.
but you're really like, no. You're like,
Okay.
I'd so rather text you. Um, or at least with you, I think I'd rather call, but
Uh-huh.
like with other people, I do like text messages more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
Um,
yeah, I like to text better because then I don't have to talk to them.
Even me. Yes.
Yes.
um, so summer or winter, and I think I know what you're gonna say for this one.
Summer.
Yeah, summer.
Yeah, I don't like the cold.
He really doesn't. Even though he likes to ski,
Uh,
which is in the cold, but
yeah.
chocolate or vanilla.
Vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like chocolate, so
I don't know. I
definitely vanilla
remember
for me.
like one of the best ice cream experiences I've had was at Disney World one time. It was in Hollywood Studios. There is a little ice cream shop right by the kind of like fork between Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster. There's an ice cream shop, and I got vanilla bean ice cream, and
That's good ice cream.
it was good.
Yes. Rain or snow? I would say rain.
I like the smell of rain better. It has a smell.
It does.
It does, and
Like,
it's a good
yeah.
smell.
And then boat or plane?
For what? For
I don't know, just in
travel?
general. Yes.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, I've never gone on like a long distance boat, so
I also have not.
I guess plane.
Yeah. Car or motorcycle?
Probably car. I would like to try a motorcycle one day, but
Yeah, I would also say car.
that one day keeps becoming someday. So
Um, milk or juice? You know,
milk.
this is a weird one. Yeah.
I guess milk.
Yeah, I would also say milk.
Hmm.
Fire or ice?
Ice.
I like fire better. I think fire is cool.
You can
Yeah, I
skate
don't
on
know.
ice.
That's true. Lucas is very Minnesotan in the fact that he
Yeah.
likes skiing and ice skating and hockey.
Well, no. See, here's the thing. So say you go down to like Disney World in the winter.
Yeah.
You go there for a week and it's warm, and
Hmm.
that's nice. And then you come back to your cold. So it like believes me to think that if I lived in Florida the whole time, then I would go to some place like Minnesota for a week, and it'd be fine because I'm on vacation and I don't have to live with this every single day. And I know that one day it'll be gone.
That's really funny. Um, straight or curly hair? I would say curly hair. I naturally have curly hair.
uh,
Um, I've grown to love my curly hair.
nice. I've grown to love your curly hair too.
Was it really bad?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if I ever really thought about curly hair before. So, but I like
Hmm.
curly hair. Yeah,
Yeah. And then bagels or toast? Your
bagels.
bagels,
But I
yeah.
don't toast my bagels.
He has a thing against toasters. Um, I we've had conversations where I'm really adamant about toasters and wanting a toaster, and he's very much like, you don't need a toaster.
I just don't think it's an essential kitchen
I think
item.
it's an essential kitchen
It's
item.
like a second tier kitchen item. Like
No, it's a
yes,
first tier kitchen item
like a
to you.
microwave
Okay,
and an
but like,
oven
yes,
and a stove.
yeah,
A
we're
second tier,
talking small items. We're
a
talking about
second
small
tier would
items.
be like electric griddle, like a panini maker, a
What
coffee
premium
maker,
appliances I have?
a pizza go round. I have a pizza go round.
You
That's
have a
second
pizza
tier.
ground.
Um,
What about like a blender? Is that first tier or second tier?
that's more second.
Okay, because I think that a toaster is more essential than a blender.
Okay, I'll revise that statement. A toaster is a third tier.
No, it is not a third tier.
Blender and toaster are not on the same level.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
They are to me. So what would you put like a popcorn maker?
In
Like a popcorn popper. Like what tier is that?
that's like that's third tier because I think you buy it, use it a couple times, then you never use it again.
Yeah. Or like what about like I'm trying to think of another thing. What about like a mixer?
Um,
Like I'm not like I'm
uh-huh.
talking standing or hand mixer. Hand
Yeah,
mixer.
I think it's probably a second tier because you could just do it with your hand. So
Okay.
second
But
tier.
what about like but a toaster you can't toast things with your hand.
You can toast it in the oven.
Okay, that dries out your toast. But okay. I don't want to preheat my oven in the morning when I just want a slice of toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, my grandma does that. She's like, "Oh, it's summer. We can't turn on the oven. It'll heat up the house." Is that you?
I don't
Tell me
know.
now
Is
if
it?
that's you.
um. Anyway, phone or computer?
um, Probably computer because you can do more.
That's what I figured you would say. I would also probably say computer. Did you want to look on the list of like the link list and find
Yeah, I'll look
stuff
on the list.
that you can say? Um, steak or chicken?
Um, Normally chicken. Yes,
Yeah.
normally chicken.
I would also say chicken. Lucas cannot eat chicken right now because of some long-term COVID effects.
Yeah, it's not a
Where
good time.
the chicken basically tastes like fish,
Mm-hmm.
like rotten fish,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Okay, here's a off the cuff one that I
okay,
just thought of. For a margarita, frozen or not frozen?
frozen.
Yeah, I'd probably do frozen.
Yeah,
I like me some slushy. So,
I like me some slushy.
um, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
See, I wanna like Pepsi because I know that you like Coke, and
You say you want to like Pepsi, so you can fight me on it, or what?
that's pretty good. I don't know.
I'd say that if I went to a restaurant and they only had Pepsi, I probably wouldn't get it.
Here's the question: Pepsi or Diet Sam's Cola?
I've not had Diet Sam's Cola. I've not had Diet Sam's Cola.
Hey, I got Diet Sam's Cola. It was 50 cents for 2 liter. Now that's a good deal.
um,
Um,
mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Okay, I'd say beach.
Books or magazines?
Books.
Books. See, I like to look at pictures in books, so probably
Yeah, you do.
books. I don't really read books, but I like to look at pictures. Alaska or Hawaii?
Hawaii.
See, I think going to Alaska would be cool because it's so big. And
I know. I think I'd want to go to both, but I think if I had to go to one twice, I'd rather see Hawaii twice.
you can go see Hawaii twice. What?
To see one more than one.
Oh, okay.
I would want to see Hawaii more than once.
Oh, but Alaska's so big. I would want to go twice. I would want to go in when it's daylight 100% of the time and when it's
Or winter.
dark.
You mean you'd want to go in summer or winter?
Yeah, I'd want to go in summer and in winter because I think
Yeah.
that'd be cool. Because I think that'd be so weird because you'd be like, it's 2 in the morning and it's bright outside. I think that'd be so weird. And it'd be like, oh, it's 11 a.m. and there's no sun.
Online shopping or in-person shopping?
Um, if I'm trying to get something specific online,
Yeah.
if I'm just trying to have some entertainment, then in person.
Yeah, that's what I would agree with too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, pool or ocean?
Pool.
I would say ocean.
Okay.
Because I think it'd be kind of fun. Problem is with the ocean, you can't really do that much. Like you can't like play with swimming toys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, one last one.
Okay.
You pick.
Why? Okay, okay. Um. Oh, 50s or 80s music?
um,
I would say 80s music.
I think I have an appreciation for the 50s,
Okay.
but I'd probably rather listen to
Listen
80s
to
music.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to love 50s music. And I do, but, I want to love it more.
Can I do one more?
Sure.
Frozen yogurt or ice cream?
I don't know if I've
I
ever
would say
had.
ice cream.
I would say ice cream too. I don't know if I've ever had a great frozen yogurt
Yeah.
experience, or it's
Yeah.
like kind of just meh.
I feel like I always get confused at like frozen yogurt bars.
It is very
You know what I mean?
confusing. Yeah.
Because I just am not I'm not used to going to them because they don't really have any anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the time
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.